Hey, what's happening, family? It's your man, Mark Black. You know what time it is. Welcome. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday, peoples. Today we're going to get it in, right? We're going to have us a good Sucka-Free Saturday today. We're going to be talking about a topic that I think is going to be one of which you all appreciate, right? Now, before I get into it, I want to do a couple of shout outs. First of all, I want to give a shout out to We Demanding Reparations, who is the latest member of the Angry Black Sheep. Welcome. We are definitely glad to have you. I also want to shout out Ms. Denny for supporting her interests. As you can see there, she gave us a nice tip, a nice donation. We appreciate that. And also via Cash App, I want to shout out Protect Kids, Show Enough, and Chainbreaker for their wonderful tips and donations. Family, if you have the opportunity, there are links in the description. They will also periodically pop up during the chat where you can support your interests, right? I'm not going to beg, but I definitely encourage you to do so. It's appreciated. Also, there are links in the description field for books that you can purchase, again, which help to support my work. There's also merchandise that you can pick up with the Angry Black Sheep logo, right? Represent Angry Black Sheep. And again, those help to support my channel too as well. All right. Now, before we get into today's topic, I want to address a broadcast that I did previously, right? There has been people who have discussed our justice claim in a way that I kind of went in on. And so I want to make something clear right from the get-go. For those of you who see the push for our justice claim as a long-term effort, right? I want you to know that I don't necessarily disagree with you. Okay. I do recognize that we're not getting this justice claim upheld tomorrow. Okay. That's not going to happen. With that having been said, however, I understand the frustration of those who have clearly stated that with 2053 approaching, we don't have a lot of time to push for our justice claim to be upheld. In other words, those who are seeking to treat this as if this is another sort of marathon event or whatever the case may be, might find that we will be forced due to exigent circumstances to pick up the pace, right? These people question the idea of treating this as the same kind of historical way that we've engaged issues as ADOS. Now, of course, as you all know, I fall into that second camp, I guess, if you will. However, I want to make it clear that I do not disdain those or disrespect those people who are looking to treat this in a more long-term fashion. I only hope to offer a counterpoint, right? An alternative that should our efforts in this sort of marathon-like run not pan out the way we want. I want to make it clear that we have other options that, while they may be disruptive, while they may require us to do things that we find uncomfortable or unfamiliar, are options that should not be taken off the table, right? So I'm again stating my allegiance to, alliance with those who are treating this as more of a marathon rather than a sprint, while offering sprint-like opportunities for those who want to hit the ground running and do more today, right? So that having been said, today's broadcast is going to discuss getting the bag, ADOS style, right? ADOS style. By the way, shout out to Miss Denny and Barshawn. Family, you know how we do. If you here watching live and you're in the broadcast or you're here watching us, make sure to pop your name up in the chat. Let us shout you out, right? Let us know you're here. Now, what do I mean by getting the bag ADOS or ADOS style? I mean just that, right? Us being able to get what we need, right? Bringing home the bacon, getting the bag. Until such time as our justice claim is honored, we still have a need as a people to survive, right? Now, as an ADOS advocate, I believe that ultimately the push for our justice claim is the only way that we will be made completely whole as best we're able from the circumstances in which we found ourselves here in the United States of America. Shout out to you, Michael, by the way. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday. That being said, however, I do believe that today we can explore some options that ADOS people may not be as familiar with. And the best part about these options is that while they're not a replacement for reparations, right, they're more of an interim measure. These options can work for ADOS people even if there's no change in how the government operates, even if there's no change in political movement on our justice claim and so on and so forth. Now, let me issue this caveat. By the way, shout out to my brother Chris from Sacktown. Peace to you, brother, and welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday. Let me issue this caveat right from the get-go. What we're discussing today is not a replacement for our justice claim. We can and should, as ADOS people, be able to walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, meaning that what we're going to discuss today, we can do while still pushing to honor our ancestors and to have the debt paid for this country to cut the check. All right? But with that said, we're going to talk about how we can go about getting the bag as ADOS in spite of the lack of honoring our justice claim. Now, there's a couple of things that we need to address, if you will, right out the gate. And I want you to understand that this isn't victim blaming or victim shaming. However, there's some ideas that we have as ADOS that are hurting us, that are not serving us in any good stead. One of these ideas is the idea of aspiration, right? Aspiration for ADOS folks, is primarily related to the fact that we remain an eternally optimistic, hopeful people. But as I've said in previous broadcasts, family, hope is a poison. Hope is not going to feed us. It's not going to save us. It's not going to help us. Hope is what you lean on, similar to faith, when you have no evidence to support what it is that you think is going to occur. After you do whatever it is that you're going to do, or refrain from doing whatever it is that you're going to refrain from doing, hope is what you have left. Hope is what you have in the absence of a game plan, right? It's like, let's say that you have a business and somebody asks you, what's your marketing strategy, right? And you say, well, my marketing strategy is to get exposure for my business via word of mouth. Okay. So what you're saying basically is that you don't have a marketing strategy, that you're depending on hope, that you're hoping that people have exposure to your product or service, and that in their good graces, right, taking time out of their valuable day or caring enough about your product or service that they will tell other people about your product or service in order to drive more business to you. Hope is not a strategy. So aspiration as an offshoot of hope keeps us perennially trapped in things that we could be doing that we're not doing. Because after a certain point, we begin to become inactive and we depend on or lean on hope. The second issue as ADOS folk that we need to address amongst ourselves is this idea of screw you, I got mine, right? That just like our, white ethnic compatriots and Latino ethnic compatriots here in this country, that we can somehow strike out for our own selves, and get the bag, regardless of whatever impacts or lack of impacts that has on ADOS people as a collective. In very many countries, ethnic minorities or ethnic groups that are not the dominant groups in those countries have to work to a certain degree communally, especially in the early stages of capital acquisition and accumulation. Why? Because it's simple. The lone wolf dies, but the pack survives, right? If you're out there trying to get it all by yourself, the only person that you can count on is you. But you don't know everything. You can't see all threats that are coming in your direction. You can't prepare for every eventuality by yourself. You lack key information, key data. You lack key amounts of time, right? There are certain things that require time, and the fewer people you have involved, the longer the time periods go that require for those things to be completed, and you may not have the time. This hyper individualistic model that ADOS has adopted from other ethnic groups here in the United States doesn't work for us. Because while you individually may desire to be seen as your own person with your own degree of autonomy, the society at large treats you as a part of a collective. So this means essentially, family, that regardless of what it is that you desire for yourself, it ultimately will be tied either by you or by someone else to a collective effort, to a collective struggle. Shout out to Brandon, by the way. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday. And shout out to my man, Show Nuff. So those two issues, the issue of this desire to be aspirational, to indulge in hope, and this desire to be the same hyper individualist as everyone else in America are two obstacles that hold ADOS back, or ADOS people back, from being able to do the needful. Shalom, Paul. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday. So whatever it is that we ultimately do to get the bag as a collective, as individuals, we'll have to address these two things. And what I offer you today is a path. And as always, as your ADOS advocate, I'm going to provide you with the data. I'm going to show you exactly who's doing what, how, and how it works. So let's get started, family. Here in this article that we're going to discuss first, though, it's not an article. It's actually a website. And let me go ahead and bring it up for us. And let me also give you a link in the chat to the website itself. Because as I stated before, you need to be following along, right? I'm not just talking to hear myself talk. By the way, if you haven't liked, shared this video, you're failing. Make sure you do so, family. This website here is the website of a Christian group called the Bruderhof, right? Bruderhof in German, right? Because that's where ultimately the word comes from, means brotherhood. Now, the Bruderhof is an offshoot of the Anabaptist Christian ethos, a Christian interpretation, right? And other Anabaptist groups that you may be familiar with or may have heard about are groups like the Mennonites and the Amish. These are all offshoots of an Anabaptist interpretation of Christianity that basically came to the fore after the Protestant Reformation, right? After Luther's 95 Theses and the breakup of the Catholic Church into the various Protestant sects, right? Now, the Bruderhof do things pretty uniquely compared to a lot of other Christian groups. As you might have guessed from some of my references to the Mennonites and the Amish, the Bruderhof tend to operate on a very collective basis. As a matter of fact, family, they operate on a collective basis to a level that most ADOS people would be unfamiliar with. They take their efforts, their work, and they put it toward becoming like the original church in Acts. For those of you who are familiar with the Christian church in Acts, the original Christian church held all things in common, right? In Acts, and I'm paraphrasing, it's I think Acts chapter 2, something like that, right? I'll have to look it up. But you do the homework yourself, right? But in Acts, it says that in those days, the church was a collective. No person called their own stuff their own. They shared everything as a community, as a collective. They ate together. They lived together. They prayed together. They, did everything together. Well, the Bruderhof takes that literally, right? If we go here and look, you see here that they have what's called, here's the verse right here. The community of goods, it says, now the company of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and not one said that any of the things which he possessed was his own, but they had everything in common. Acts 4:32. The Bruderhof take that literally. So none of them owns anything personally, right? Now, they, of course, have basic personal possessions like clothing and things like that, right? But in tune with Acts 4:32, everything that is a part of the community is communal, right? Anybody, it says here, anyone who has decided to become a member freely gives all property, earnings, and inheritances to the church community. In turn, all necessities such as food, housing, and health care are provided for. Members generally work for and in the community, but none of us receives a paycheck, stipend, or allowance. In our homes and daily lives, we strive to live frugally and give generously to avoid excess and to remain unfettered by materialism. In these practical ways, we seek to witness and blah, 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 right? You feel me? So they hold things in common, right? The Bruderhof communities are organized around housing communities. They have like apartment units, not necessarily individual houses and things like that, right? Everybody has the same basic furnishings and stuff like that, right? As a matter of fact, single members of the community are actually a part of someone's household, so that they're able to live in a communal fashion with the members of a household. So single people are taken care of as a part of the Bruderhof. They have community buildings such as schools, dining halls, laundry, and so on and so forth, right? As you can see here, they even discuss meals and things like that. And I'll leave it to you to do the research. Again, I placed the link to the Bruderhof community's website right here in the chat. So you can sit there and link up and look over this to your heart's content. Now, why am I mentioning the Bruderhof, right? I'm not a religious individual, okay? I'm not, and you all know this. However, I'm mentioning the Bruderhof because the Bruderhof exists right now under our current political structure, under our current tax laws and structure, under this current milieu. The Bruderhof is not expecting anything to change other than what it is. And they're able to live in a fashion in which everybody as a part of the community is able to get a come up, right? And I'm not religious either, but this makes perfect sense. Let's take a look here at education. The Bruderhof has their own schools, right? They have religious education because they are a religious community, but they also are in accordance with state and federal laws as far as education goes. But they say here that they provide instruction in craftsmanship and practical skills, singing in the arts, play, sportsmanship, getting out in nature, and so on and so forth. Here's another thing to note too. They have people in the Bruderhof community where they need professionals, right? So what they do as a part of their community is the community pays for people to go to post-high school education, right? Undergrad, postgraduate, and so on and so forth, right? And in return, when those people get their degrees, like let's say the community needs nurses and doctors, the community funds the education of nurses and doctors. And in return, those nurses and doctors then return to the community and bring their education and use it for the growth and the betterment of the community as a whole. And because the doctors are taken care of, right? They have their food needs met, their resources met. They have homes, they have families, and everybody has a focus on self-sufficiency, simplicity, and communal growth and uplift. There's no desire. These doctors are living high on the hog in the big house on the hill, popping their collar and showing off their degrees. They're simply just providing their efforts. By the way, shout out to old boy August and Sister Kawami. Double C's as well. Welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday. Now, family, understand me when I tell you that you don't need necessarily to be religious in order to take advantage of this. And I'll show you how. Religion doesn't even need to play a role in it. Although those of you who are spiritual in nature or are religious will actually have an easier time organizing in such a community. A much easier time, because our current tax code actually would allow you religious folk to organize as housing and communal structures. And not only that, but be tax exempt as well. So any generation of resources that your community experiences, you're able to actually raise the quality of living of every member of your community. Rather than paying that money to Sam and his peons in the state and county and so on and so forth, you can keep those resources and husband them for the growth, the elevation of your community. So if you are a religious group, you should be questioning why it is that your churches haven't already set up along these types of structures. You should have some hard questions for Pastor Porkchop and Reverend Do-Wrong. No slight intended to your faith, by the way. The Bruderhof also have businesses that they operate. Here is 3 businesses that they operate. Community playthings. Anybody ever been to like a local park? Right? Like the local public park or whatever. And you see the slides and the monkey bars and all that other stuff. Well, the Bruderhof actually makes playground equipment that they sell all over the world. You feel me? Right? So they own, as a collective, individual businesses that they are then able to generate profit from for the collective growth and the additional quality of life for their communities. As you can see here, Riften Equipment designs and manufactures adaptive equipment for children and adults with disabilities. And again, they sell this equipment all around the world. The Bruderhof aren't sitting here wondering if people like them or if they're anti-religious bigots or racists. Community playthings don't give a damn what you think about them. They're just trying to sell you playground equipment. D'Anthonia Designs, here based in Australia, does storage. Urethane signs, LED message boards, and so on and so forth. They serve clients in Australia and internationally. And guess what, family? Here's the great part about it. These businesses are organized as worker collectives or worker cooperatives, meaning that the community owns the businesses, which means that when these businesses make profits, you don't have some fat cat bastard member of the 1% up at the top taking the cream off of everybody's efforts. Everybody's efforts go to benefit everyone. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking. This shit sound like communism or something like that. But who's to say that something like this can't operate under a capitalist system? It's happening right here, right now, in front of your face. Cooperative efforts work just as well under capitalism as they do under any other economic system. As a matter of fact, what do you think a corporation is? A corporation is a fictional legal construct that acts as a body. It is a group of individuals who organize under a particular identity to perform some sort of business enterprise. The only difference between community playthings and some other playground equipment manufacturing group is that community playthings is owned by the members of the Bruderhof. As a collective, they all reap the benefits of the profits of community playthings, whereas this other company, XYZ, Playthings Incorporated, works to benefit the stockholders and the muckety mucks. That's the only difference. That's the only difference. We as ADOS people have allowed this country to sell us a bill of goods that whatever you get has to be by your own efforts for your own benefit, or it ain't worth doing. I'm not going to be sitting out here working for these no good niggas. Why not? They need just as you need. They trying to get the same thing you trying to get. Food, clothing, shelter, security, safety, protection, love, care, concern, self-actualization, and growth. Why would you work for anybody else but not work for your own? Everybody talks about a lot in the black community, do for self, do for self, do for self. Do for self. Let me ask you one simple question. How's that worked out for us? You got a bunch of niggas out here doing for self with small businesses that have an employee base of one, the owner, that are undercapitalized, underfunded, and competing against the entire globe. How's do for self worked for us? Because remember, family, what is the underlying philosophy behind ADOS people? What should it be? Amoral pragmatism. Does it work? This doesn't mean we evil people or do, wrong stuff to people or whatever the case may be. But what this means is what we're doing working for us? If it's not, throw that shit out. Pardon my language. You feel me? This individualist attitude is killing us. We have a problem that I'd like to share with you that we actually have a solution for. We have some ADOS folk who have capital, right? Not many according to the data, but we do have some ADOS folk who got bread, who got resources, who got capital. But the problem is that their capital isn't enough to sustain a business that is looking to only benefit them. And the overwhelming majority of us are employees. But due to bigotry, anti-black racism, Afrophobia in America, can't get jobs and opportunities in enterprises that are created by people of other ethnic groups. Well, something like the Bruderhof, or what I'm about to describe next, is a match made in heaven. Our brothers and sisters that have the capital, instead of trying to hog the ownership and be the HNIC, the head niggas in charge, could simply go to the labor and say, okay, I got some capital to get us started. Can y'all put in the labor with me? And we all own a share of this joint. And as it grows, we all prosper. Who'da thunk it? The Bruderhof did. They're not even the only ones. Like I said, the Mennonites do it. The Amish do it. You know who's the largest holder of real estate in Utah? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. And they also are the largest employer in Utah as well. Don't tell me what collective effort under a capitalist system can't do. And family, you don't need to depend on a change in the law. You don't depend or have to depend in this case on a politician having your back and speaking for you. This assumes everything we're talking about today assumes nothing changes in the current standard or the current milieu of the United States of America. You don't have to take my word for it. Here's the data right here. You have a living experiment in communal efforts bringing communal growth. You see here an example of the Bruderhof that owns land in common, housing in common, that takes care of food needs, clothing needs, medical needs, healthcare needs, from cradle to grave. Believe it or not, family, the Bruderhof have a system that these so-called liberals would kill to live under. And you can develop this today. I'm going to show you another example. Let's take a look. Back in the 30s, in the Basque region of Spain, right, there was a priest named Father Jose Maria Arizmendiarratia, and I'm certain I just butchered the hell out of that, right, who saw that the Basque people, right, which is an ethnic minority in Spain, were very poor. Don't forget, Spain had a lot of, how would you say, political upheaval. In the 30s, you had the Spanish Commune come together, basically a group of workers, cooperatives, and anarchists who said, damn the government. But then, of course, General Franco defeated the anarchists, defeated the collectivists, and instituted strongman rule in Spain for a while, right? So there was a lot of upheaval in Spain. And who always suffers under upheaval? Poor folk. And the Basque people are no different. Well, this priest, Father Jose, created a cooperative called Mondragon, right? And the Mondragon Cooperative owns 102 federated cooperatives employing over 73,000 people. And you know what the crazy part about it is, fam? Each of these cooperatives are all owned by the workers. That's right. Each one of these separate businesses, 102 separate business entities, all cooperate with each other and all are owned by the workers. And you're saying, well, that's Spain, right? That can't really like do nothing here in America. No, that's not true. Workers' cooperatives can exist perfectly fine. You can incorporate a workers' cooperative right here in the United States as a nonprofit organization or a for-profit corporation. Doesn't matter. In our legal structure, there is no difference between what Mondragon is doing in Spain and what we could do here in the United States. Under the current structure, this assumes nothing changes. Now, let's discuss Mondragon for a bit, right? This person actually did kind of a critique of Mondragon, right? And I think that they were very fair and measured. So they talked about here that Mondragon is not a local living economy. In other words, Mondragon is benefiting the Basque people and so on and so forth. but they willing to trade with everybody on the planet, right? The author of the article said that she expected a local living economy, right? Mondragon's like large and in charge. We could compete in global markets and maximize employment for our people. You feel me? Right? She also mentions here that Mondragon is an advanced industrial economy competing in global markets. They tell us capitalism is global, right? So who is it the ADOS people should be marketing their services to? The entire world. Who is it the ADOS people should be marketing their products to? Everybody. But the do-for-selfers tell us to buy black, own black, bank black. For what? Everybody else got bread too. White people money green. Latino money green. Asian bread is green. So what's wrong with marketing to everybody on the planet? Do you see what I'm saying? She goes on further to state in this article, and I love this piece right here. She said, pragmatism is the only enduring ism. Right? Black folk go into various situations, okay? Whether politically, economically, socially, culturally, and so on and so forth, right? But now we go into these things based off of their stated ideals, right? People who are out here advocating for Bernie Sanders and democratic socialism is like, we need universal this for everybody, and so on and so forth, right? So black folk involve themselves in circumstances and situations due to ideals, right? Remember, the Congressional Black Caucuses hold themselves out as what? The conscience of the Congress. We're the most moral people in the United States. But Mondragon is about what works. Sure, they have their ideals. They have the things that they would like to hold up in high esteem. And as best they're able to, they maintain them. But should their ideals get in the way of the key thing, which is the growth and the benefit of the worker owners, those ideals can take a back burner for a minute. If they're trying to angle one way, but find that that path reaches a dead end, Mondragon cooperatives maintain the mental flexibility to shift tactics to reach their desired goal, which is the benefit of the worker cooperatives. Pragmatism is the only enduring ism. Everything else can be bent, can be shifted around, moved around. See, ADOS people, because we have been brutalized so badly in America, we are essentially a very conservative people. We're risk adverse. We don't want to lose what little we got, in spite of the fact that the data tells us we have essentially nothing to lose, right? So we hold on to ideals when everyone else is like, yeah, but is that working? Nah, well, damn that. You know what I'm saying? Let's do what works. So we hold on to ideals rather than being pragmatic and making the mental shifts and the cultural changes to be flexible, to go with the times and to be able to continue to push toward our ultimate goal, which is the uplift, the care, the concern, the growth of ADOS people. We hold on to ideals when they're not necessary in arenas where they're not necessary. And on top of that, we're risk adverse. We refuse to be flexible. Mondragon shows that you can be about your people first and still be able to be flexible enough to operate in multiple spheres. This is a key lesson for ADOS folk. You don't have to hate white folks to love ADOS folk. You don't have to hate immigrants to love your own. What you have to have is a commitment to your own above all others. To align with others only to the extent that it benefits you and yours. And everyone else, oh well, I'll take hold your own nuts for 200, Alex. The author goes on to talk about the social safety net. One of the things that Mondragon has done successfully is as they've grown, they've put in place structures to be able to take care of former worker owners long after their days of work is done. As it stands for ADOS, we complain about the boomers not letting go of the reins of power, not giving us our shot, right, to step up and move into place and start making moves. Well, part of that is because, let's just face it, boomers have been on some aspirational screw you, I got mine stuff. But another part of that is because a lot of them can't retire. They were profligate with their resources when they were younger and exhausted what they needed. They ate the children, right? If you think of your money, your resources, your capital as little babies, they ate their own children. And now the children that could have grown up to sustain them in their old age ain't there for them. Well, Mondragon built outside of the government its own internal safety net, social safety net. Right? So that they can be able to take care of. By the way, shout out to LaShawn and my brother CRU. And also shout out to SM Bonner. Long time no see. Oh boy, Peach, I see you, by the way. Right? So Mondragon developed its own social safety net. Black folk, ADOS folk, are still dependent on Social Security. We still dependent on AFDC. Or I'm sorry, at TANF, because AFDC been long gone. That was taken away by the Democrats back in the 90s under Clinton's welfare reform. Because, you know, any bad thing that happens to ADOS can only happen under Democrats. Wait, did I just say that out loud? They offer benefits, including health care, pensions, and unemployment. So when they have cooperatives that may be in an industry that experiences a downturn, right? And some of their worker owners are out of work, Mondragon takes care of its own in a cooperative called Lagoon Auto. You feel me? Talks about the governance of Mondragon cooperatives. This right here, family, I think warrants special attention. By the way, let me do what I need to do. Let me do the needful because I'm failing. Here's a link to the article discussing Mondragon. And it talks about how Mondragon has figured out decision-making, managerial discretion, and being democratic. Right, making sure that everybody involved gets a voice. DDD said, how does ADOS protect our ideas from predatory behavior from other groups while still being a bottom caste in society? You don't have to protect your ideas. Not in the sense that you might be thinking, DDD. Besides, in this country, there are already laws that protect ideas. There's trademark law, which Black folk need to understand more about the laws under which we exist. A lot of the time we get bopped. It's not necessarily because people are actually getting one over on us. A lot of the time when we get bopped, it's due to our own ignorance of what we can actually do to protect ourselves from getting bopped. We put out these ideas and just kind of throw them out there with no protections, no copyright, no trademark registration, no intellectual property protection, no patents. And then we wonder how we getting took. These are things that you all need to understand if you're going to be involved in any type of entrepreneurial or business enterprise. Now, this is not saying we all need to be lawyers, right? We don't. But what this does mean is that we need to have, as ADOS people, we don't get the luxury of just kind of sliding by and letting things be, right? We have to have a little bit of a level of understanding of a multitude of different subjects just to be able to operate safely as a part of our collective, right? ADOS don't usually get second chances or do-overs, meaning that when we go into things, we can't overanalyze and be stuck in analysis paralysis, but we also can't leave our butts flapping out there in the wind either, right? There are methods and means already extant in the laws of America that protect ideas, but a lot of the time we don't know how to go about doing it. We don't understand copyright law and patent law and trademark law, or how to register a trademark. Believe it or not, though, you don't need to understand all of that. If you go onto federal government websites, they actually have guides there in electronic format that you can read that shows you how to go about these processes. So I hope that answers your question, DDD. It was a great question, right? Now, this talks about the structure of Mondragon and so on and so forth, right? Here's something else. This you're going to love here, family, right? Here, the author talks about intercooperation. There was, in the 2008 financial crisis, one of the cooperatives, Fagor Electrodomesticos, the largest of their industrial cooperatives, failed, right? Which eliminated 1,800 jobs for their worker owners, okay? But what happened next, she said, was unusual. What happened next is because of the principle of intercooperation among the Mondragon cooperative enterprises. That is the idea of connectedness and reciprocity among all the participants in the system. Most of the employees were relocated to other cooperatives. Some were offered employment in Kata Electrodomesticos, the private sector enterprise that took over the assets of Fagor Electrodomesticos. Some took early retirement, and a handful took a compensation package to leave the Mondragon cooperative. Some received unemployment benefits from Lagoon Auto, and by the time of her visit in 2017, only 3% of those 1,800 employee owner workers were still unplaced, unquote. But it's do for self, do for self, do for self. They were able, through agreements of intercooperation amongst the disparate businesses of the cooperative, to be able to absorb the losses of the largest of their industrial cooperatives failed. And they were able to absorb 1,740 employees in various ways, various worker owners. They were able to employ most of them. Some of them retired and said, hey, I'm good. I've been working long enough. I can retire now. Some of them said, you know what? I don't really want to be a part of this thing, so just pay me out and I'm good. Some of them continued to get unemployment benefits from their own social welfare cooperative. So no disrespect to their dignity, no having to go down and wait at the welfare office and so on and so forth, dealing with a caseworker who's going through your whole life with a fine-tooth comb to see whether or not you might be eating a little piece of steak rather than damn hamburger one night. And only 3%. What structure has ADOS ever had in this country that can say it's done that? Whether white owned or otherwise. Let me continue. Here she talks about contradictions. You're actually going to like this part. She said, first and most troubling was the issue of international workers who are not members of the cooperatives. Yes, the Mondragon cooperatives do hire people to work in their cooperative businesses, but they don't give them ownership. They don't offer them benefits of worker ownership. Just keeping it a buck. She said here, Georgia Kelly, the tour leader, said, you cannot impose a cooperative culture where nothing like it exists. Meaning that if we had cooperative businesses as ADOS folk around something along the lines of the Mondragon model, with communities organized similar to the Bruderhof model, our people come first. If we need other resources, other individuals, we can use them on a case-by-case basis. But we don't have to invite every damn body to the barbecue. Another thing the author of the article mentions is the idea of sustainability, right? You know, talking about economic and environmental sustainability. Mondragon simply didn't make it an issue. Now they're doing better on it, but they wasn't out there being the advocates of everything got to be green, everything got to be green. Eating the failure, eating the losses. They're like, hey, when everybody else gets on board, we'll sign up. But at the end of the day, remember, for Mondragon, pragmatism is the only enduring ism. If going green will benefit our worker owners, we'll sign up. If it don't, then we won't. Now here it talks about the status of women, right? Not very much in evidence on the shop floor or worker owners or at the management level. To be honest, that could just be a factor of the culture. Basque culture, similar to a lot of like Latin cultures or whatever, women have a different place. Now this is not to disrespect women. This is not to say that women can't operate in the workplace or anything like that. But you have to account for culture. This Jill chick who wrote this article probably comes from the United States, where women are basically able to dictate their terms into every damn thing that they want to dictate their terms into. But in other places in the world, there's a pecking order. Women might operate primarily in one sphere and males might operate primarily in another sphere. And that culture doesn't have an issue with that. So much for all this feminist bullshit, that propaganda that keeps getting pushed off on people, right? It seems that all feminism has done for ADOS folk has encouraged our sisters to take what little primacy of place that they've had out in the workforce and use it to their own individual benefit, while downing their brothers who may not have those same opportunities. That's a different broadcast, though. I'm not going to touch on that. Right? And then she talks about how democratic they move, how everybody makes the choices. Of course, taking it to account the fact that under democracy, the majority or winner takes all. Right? So, as ADOS people indulge more in collective enterprises, right? We may initially start off with a democratic point of view, but we may ultimately come around to consensus, because consensus is another way of operating in group or collective interests. The Arabs have a concept called a shura, right? Shuras are consultative councils in which everybody has a say, and the ultimate decision comes down to everybody giving the nod. In small collectives, in small groups, consultative legislation actually works better than democratic voting type structures. It gets a little bit more unwieldy on a larger level to make 73 people or 73,000 people all say yes before a decision can be taken. So democracy might work a little better on a larger scale than consultative or consensus building decision making. But there's another option for ADOS people other than democracy, the idea of consensus. But consensus requires that ADOS people start to educate themselves. Even democracy requires a degree of education. You need to educate yourself as to what the issues are so that you can make an informed decision as a voter. Right? But there's your example right there. I love this quote right here. There are three kinds of power. Power that can crush us and we can and must resist it. That's oppression. Power can assist us and we must guide it. That's advocacy. But we can also be power ourselves. This means organizing and building institutions together for what we need. Unquote. I couldn't have said it any better myself. I couldn't have said it any better. So family, I have now given you two examples, one in a different country, but whose principles and actions are just as applicable here in the United States, and one group that's based here in the United States. Family, if other people are having issues with the audio, pop a one in the chat. Because I can see the levels here on my mixer and everything. Let me know. Let me know if you're having any audio issues, right? Pop a one in the chat. Because sure enough, if no one else is saying they're having audio issues, bro, you might have to check your stuff. We all good? Somebody give me yes, no's. By the way, we got all these people watching. I appreciate your eyeballs. I appreciate your love. If what I'm saying today edifies, hit the links in the chat. Throw some coins your brother's way. Support your interests. We good, show enough? All right. But family, I showed you two examples that don't require any political change. Right? That don't require us to be working with, with the politicians or whatever the case may be, right? I'm not saying we don't press home our justice claim. Not at all. We can walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, ADOS family. But what I am saying is while we wait for this justice claim to be honored, for our ancestors' debt to be paid, there are clear things that we can do together, you and I, not by yourself, us together. No more of this decadent veil crap, but you and I, us together to get the bag for both of us. There are things that we can do together with an emphasis on simplicity. Family, you have no idea how powerful simplicity is. You know what's the most powerful life form on the planet Earth? When I ask that question, most people will say humans. And they'd be flat dead wrong. The most powerful life form on this planet, the one life form that has the capability to touch every other life form on this planet, is the virus. And it's so simple, scientists aren't even certain if it's alive or not. Simplicity has power. How long have we been stuck in this hyper-individualistic milieu where I gotta have the bigger car, the bigger house, I gotta have the bigger title? Oh, I got my bachelor's degree. Oh, nigga, that ain't shit. I got my master's degree. Well, I got you both beat. I'm a doctor. So I know what I'm talking about. How long? How long are we going to play this hyper individualistic game where we got to have the bigger TV, the shinier clothes, the more bling, the fastest ride, the dopest whip, a bank account with the biggest number? How is that serving us as ADOS in any good stead? Because when the wolves come to eat you, do you want to be out there all fluffy and yummy looking? You beautiful black sheep out there all by yourself, surrounded by the wolf pack? Or do your ass want to be right there as a part of the herd, where we can at least kick at a few of them wolves when they try to get you? I'm going to open up the phone here shortly, family. How can we make our family understand, though? You can't. What you could do is you can explain it to them, right? Sure enough, I don't need to provide you an example of that. I can explain to you how they do it, right? So there's a couple of things. First of all, due to the separation of church and state, there's a lot of stuff that the Bruderhof can do without even having to involve the state. Okay? Meaning that the Bruderhof has the right to organize itself as a religious organization. I had an idea, actually, right? I had an idea, actually, about the organization of an ecumenical ADOS religious council. Now, hear me out, because I know there's non-religious ADOS people too. But hear me out. An ecumenical religious council means that ADOS who are religious, spiritual, so on and so forth, can organize under the auspices and have their authority essentially given to them by this ecumenical group. Ecumenical means all-encompassing. Everybody's denomination, sect, religion, spiritual practice, or even meditational practice. Like, I'm not spiritual, but I do meditate. I do have practices that could be considered spiritual in nature, right? Can all organize together to elevate priests, imams, ministers, leaders of communities, to ordain laity, to organize spiritual and religious communities. You don't even need to involve the state on that. You can organize that as an unincorporated association. You could do that on a county level, and it will stick nationwide. But if you do decide to take it national, the IRS code actually has 2 sections that encompasses the capability of being able to be doing this in a nonprofit tax exempt setting. There's 501c and there's section 501d. Now, the difference between the two is 501d is more for communities that are organized in communal ownership, like monasteries, convents, or something like the Bruderhof, where things are owned in common, where they operate in a collective interest, and so on and so forth. Right there's your answer. You don't need to figure it out. That's all on the books today. If you'd like to discuss this in more detail, if you're really interested in doing this in more detail, get at me. Join my Discord. We can have a conversation about it. But family, this is not difficult stuff. This is easy to do. It doesn't require any changing of the law, any advocacy from politicians. You can do this right now. Now, one objection that I can see right off the bat, because this is going to sound worse than I mean it, but some niggas is scary, is that Brother Black, we black folk, we ADOS. You think these white folks is just going to let us do this type of stuff and not do anything to us? I even have an answer for you, folk. Why should you do it? Let's discuss this. I'm a huge fan of the 48 Laws of Power. If you want to talk about a book of pragmatic steps to gain, preserve, and maintain, whether individual or collective power, I have not read a text that is more worthy than the 48 Laws of Power. Law 26, keep your hands clean. Now, again, this is amoral pragmatism, meaning that ADOS should not be concerned about morals when dealing with laws of power. One of the first things it says here is you must seem a paragon of civility and efficiency. Your hands are never soiled by mistakes and nasty deeds. Maintain such a spotless appearance by using others as scapegoats and cat's paws to disguise your involvement. Now, what's a cat's paw? There's a fable, Aesop's fable, where the monkey uses the paw of his friend the cat to get chestnuts out of the fire so he can get the nuts but doesn't hurt himself. Cat's paws are people who will help you get what you may not be able to get for yourself. How many of you folk is surrounded by so-called liberal white folk? You know, those people who sit there and bemoan all the bad stuff that happens to you. Oh, what happens to your people is so horrible. It's so bad. I'm so sick of seeing you guys go through police brutality. I'm so sick of you guys not being able to get jobs. It's so horrible. What can I do? You just found out from your man Mark Black family what they can do. They can be your face. They can be your cat's paws. A group of 100 black folk commit to saving $2,000 a year for 5 years. 100 black families saving $2,000 a month for 5 years works out to $1 million over the period of that 5 years. Don't seem like much. Pause, because it is. In some places in America, you can get thousands of acres for $200,000, $300,000. That leaves you with another $700,000 for infrastructure, right? For drainage, if need be, septic tanks. If you want to go green, for power generation, such as solar power and wind turbines, and so on and so forth, right? During that 5 years, however, these black folk ain't just sitting around twiddling their thumbs and stacking their chips. No, they're learning skills like horticulture and agriculture so they can grow gardens and raise alfalfa and wheat, raise cows, goats, sheep, chickens, rabbits. They're learning carpentry, both rough-in and finished carpentry. They're learning brick masonry and cement masonry. They're learning electrical skills. At the end of 5 years, everybody owns a community, free and clear. No mortgages, no having dealt with no banks, so no worries about redlining. But you're thinking, Brother Black, how the hell we gonna get our hands on some land like that? Ain't no crackers just gonna sell us no land like that. Yes, they will. They just won't sell it to you. Use your cat's paw. Use your faces to go in there and negotiate on your behalf. Everybody in America does it already. You think an Arab businessman has a problem with hiring a white mouthpiece to go in and negotiate on his behalf? Hell no. In China right now, you've got entire industries that are funding white folks to come from America to give conferences and things like that. They selling medical equipment. They hire a white dude, put him in a lab coat, and have him go out and speak about their medical equipment. He ain't no more doctor than the man in the moon. He's just white. He makes some money, and the corporation is able to sell more of their product. Make use of your cat's paws. You don't have to be worried, ADOS, about being the front man. Matter of fact, it's better in some ways if we operate behind the scenes. All too often, ADOS people just throw their stuff out there. We the first ones to start running off at the mouth about what it is we intend to do. And then we wonder how it is that everybody's able to end run us. Because you just get... ADOS, stop being like the villain who's got the good guy laying on the ground. And then before he kills him, sits there and tells him the whole plan. Can we try that on for size, family? Can we, for a while, start making moves in the background, in the shadows? Can we stop being that guy that has to broadcast every damn thing we doing? Oh, you know me, brother. I'm doing it real big. I just built the studio. You know what I'm saying? And I got all this equipment and this, that, and the third. 2 weeks later, your studio broken in, all your equipment gone, and you got robbed. And then you're like, man, how does this always keep happening to me? Because you keep telling everybody. Run silent, run deep. Use your cat's paws. You got all these people out here who claim to be your allies, right? All these white leftists and some conservatives who claim to be on your team. Think about it. Everybody sat here and chastised me for talking to Republicans. Well, if we came to a group of conservatives talking about that we got a game plan to be able to organize people into this, this and this, that, and the third, not giving them all the details, but asking them if they would be on board, how much funding could we get? People give out grants and aid to all sorts of stuff. When you white and you need tax write-offs, you'll give money to anybody. And in better yet, rather than us going and asking these foundations and organizations for funding, why don't we use some of our liberal resources? You know, these ones who bemoan how badly our people are getting that smoke, right? Why don't we use them to go out and speak on our behalf, to go out here and grant right for us, to get our organizations funded and our business enterprises up and running? Damn it. Is this thing on? What do ADOS people have to be afraid of in a country where you should be able to maneuver this space if you can't maneuver any space? Do not let your fear, do not let your ignorance, and I don't mean that in the pejorative fashion, I mean that in the literal sense, your unawareness be your death knell. Shout out to Tasha, by the way. Darker Visions, love you. Kizzy, love you, sis. Welcome back. XX in the house. Hey, XX, I needed to do this broadcast today because I'm going to tell you, for a simple fact, I was disheartened as hell. Everybody running around talking about marathons and, we playing chess, not checkers, and this ain't a sprint. I'm hungry for the growth and the edification of my people. I don't want to hear it's going to take us another 50 years. That stuff hurts. That's not to say it may not be true. But it's disheartening to hear. I didn't think we was getting reparations in 2020. But I didn't think we was going to let up off the gas. I hope we don't let up off the gas. I hope we keep boot to neck. But I also understand, family, what our people are saying about this being a protracted effort. I get that. That makes sense. That is the reality of the matter. Yes, we are not getting this restoration, remediation, and repair of our people tomorrow. It's not happening. So what I wanted to do was give those of us who are tired, who are ready to do something, I wanted to give us something that we can do, even if nothing about the political atmosphere changes, even if we get no substantive movement on our justice claim. This is something that a whole heaping bunch of us can focus on that will be immediately a betterment of our people's position, of our people's mentality, and so on. We need to lance our minds of the poison of aspiration, of hyper individualism, of this idea for do for self and screw you, I got mine. Those things needed to die a long time ago in our community. Those are luxuries that we have never had and we still don't have. If we are as ADOS individuals are ever going to have a quality of life that we can be happy with, that we can be proud of, we're going to have to do it together. Don't let people tell you, oh, communism this, and you niggas is talking about socialism. So what? Will it work? Because strangely enough, it worked for the Basque people in Mondragon. Strangely enough, it works for the Amish. Strangely enough, it works for the Bruderhof. So if it can work for them and the Amish don't have higher than an 8th grade education and we got PhDs and masters and graduates of BAs, then it surely could work for us. I'm with you, August. I'm not trying to hear that. 2053 is not waiting on any of us. So we can want to run a marathon. We can want to make this a long, protracted, ease into it type of event. But I can guarantee you that at some point, ADOS is going to have to become disruptive. Because the only way we're going to shake up the status quo enough to have an inroad is to be disruptive. I'm not talking about rioting and blowing stuff up and killing folk or anything like that. I mean sweeping the pieces off of the board and resetting the game. A game that we long known has been rigged. And that don't take a marathon to do. That takes a willingness to do what we've never done. That takes a mental flexibility, and it takes the realization that you and I are all we got. We have no permanent friends, but we also have no permanent enemies. We have no permanent alliances. We only have permanent interests. And I'm going to keep hammering that home until you get it through your beautiful black skulls. I am willing to engage and work with anybody to further the goal of growth, edification, and uplift, the remediation, the restoration, and repair of the American descendants of slavery. I have no pride and I have nothing but pragmatism. I want to do whatever will work for us. No more and no less. So today's broadcast, I hope, offered you the opportunity to see a pathway for the creation of seed communities that are then able to shard off and grow more communities. Communities based around the principles of collective effort and collective benefit, simplicity, and reliance, collective reliance, interdependence, not this do for self attitude that's been running rampant through our community and watching all of us face zero net wealth in the richest country on the planet. I hope something I said inspires you. I hope something I said gave you an idea. I hope I lit a fire in your mind to help you to get started doing the work. It's time to hear from you, family. 425-296-1980 is the number. I want to hear what y'all got to say on this. If you have questions, this is the time to start asking them. Darker Vision said, I've been getting dragged the last few days on Twitter for basically saying our spokespeople need to be more disruptive. I feel you. Jacqueline, by the way, welcome to your Sucka-Free Saturday, sister. I see you. I feel you, Darker Visions, right? I won't lie. I have nothing but the utmost. Nothing I'm saying today is in any way disrespect to the founders of ADOS, the founders of the ADOS movement, or hashtag not disrespectful to them at all. But I won't lie. I was disheartened like a son of a bitch when I read Yvette's tweet that this is a marathon. I was disheartened. Thank you for supporting your interest, show enough. I really appreciate you. I was disheartened. I'm not going to lie, because I'm the black outcast. I say the things that people are scared to say. I was disheartened because I'm thinking, man, we building this groundswell of energy and people are itching to do something. And now you're telling us that this is a marathon? But she's right. I don't like hearing it. But she's right. So rather than me be all messed up behind the fact that this may be a protracted long-term thing, which I don't think is going to be sustainable in the long term, I wanted to offer a counterpoint. I wanted to offer something where even if there's no substantive movement on our justice claim, we could still accomplish that would immediately better our circumstances as ADOS folk, not just in the short term, but in the long term as well. We gotta understand that strain of thought is going to be extant amongst our people. ADOS, as I stated, we are an inherently conservative group of people. And so we don't like change. We don't like disruption, which is why we don't indulge in it. If you want to know the real 100% square business truth, that's why ADOS aren't as disruptive as we should be. Because we're afraid of disruption. Whenever we experience disruption, it's always been to our detriment. But part of the reason why is because we've never really been the ones who have been being disruptive. I'm just keeping it a buck. If you're not the mover, you're the one being shaken. I'm going to repeat that for you. If you're not the mover, you're the one who's being shaken. You know when they say movers and shakers? Everybody thinks that's a conflation, that they're synonymous. Nah, I argue that unless you're the mover, you're the one being shaken. That's always messed up. If you're never the one being disruptive, if you're never the one pressing out for something new, then you're always going to be at the whims of those who are disruptive. What is the one thing they say about the growth of the internet? Businesses like Amazon, Facebook, and all of that. They said that the internet is disruptive. We always the last one to come in after stuff has been shaken up. When the World Wide Web was the wild, wild west, virtual wild, wild west, that was when black folk, ADOS folks, should have been striking our homesteads. Instead of trying to get the latest car, we should have been trying to get the latest computer. It's easy to be afraid of disruption when you're the one who's always being disrupted. Not disrupting, but being disrupted. That's why we're afraid of change. because we're never the ones who are initiating the change. We're always the ones reacting to changes that other people have initiated. And you can't get anywhere being reactionary. Family, think of ADOS like a car. Okay, here's an analogy that will help you. Think of ADOS as like a car. If you're driving a car and you're staring out ahead of you, you can see what's coming, right? If there's a curve that you got to make, your body's already making the micro adjustments needed to address your speed, to address the angle of the wheels, the alignment of the wheels, and so on and so forth. So when you reach that curve, you're already going through it, and it seems effortless. But if we as ADOS continue to drive only looking at the road in front of us, we miss key signs like stop, construction here. We don't see the curve coming up ahead. And so we're reacting rather than being proactive. DDD said, if it's a marathon, then how can our votes be relevant? They're trying to legalize illegal immigrants now in 2019 for votes. I hear you. See, here's the thing about a marathon. A marathon is going to always be won by the one who gets up in front. But who is more likely to be the one to get up in front? A fat motherfucker like myself who ain't ran more than a mile since he was 18 years old and in the army? Or some long, slender, beautiful runner who runs 12 miles a day, 5 days a week, just on a humbug? Who's more likely to get up front? Now, I, for one, have no problem with saying, damn a marathon, and jumping in a Lamborghini and speeding right past that running son of a bitch. Because Mark Black don't play fair. I don't play nice. The only others I play well with is ADOS folk. Everybody else I don't play well with. If I need them, if I can use them for something, if I can gain something, an advantage from them, I'm for it. We can talk. We can be buddies. We can be pals for a minute. But the only enduring interest I have is ADOS folk. If I have to jump into the Boston Marathon in a Lamborghini and drive it all the way to the end of it, I'm going to do it. Because I can guarantee you anybody else who want to disrupt that race will do the same damn thing. They'll jump on a Ducati and take off. You feel me, Darker Visions? Tanya Harding had it for me. Nancy Kerrigan got that kneecap work. The only mistake she made was doing it her damn self. Should have used a cat's paw. Actually, she did use a cat's paw, but he was a weak one. If you remember that situation, that her cat's paw was weak. You need somebody who's going to take one for the team. You feel me? You feel me? Jump on that Ducati bike and speed your butt right to the end. Exactly, Michael. Everybody else in this game of the United States of America has no problem with bending and or breaking the rules. Now, that being said, ADOS, understand one thing. We have been the only group of people that have not been allowed to profit from rule breaking. Right? There are no Black Kennedys. There are no Black Trumps. The reason why is because Donald Trump's father was a pimp and a hustler. Joseph Kennedy was a rum runner, a bootlegger, a drug dealer. They don't allow Black people to do that stuff. And y'all know that as a fact. So we got to be disruptive in other ways. We don't get $300,000 gimmies, intra vivo transfers of wealth from dropping out of college. We ain't got it like that. Bill Gates gets $300,000, he a college dropout or whatever, and is able to parlay that into $1 billion business using a disruptive technology that they knew would be disruptive. But hey, they were the movers. So guess who ended up being the shaken? Bunch of ADOS folks sitting here with shaken baby syndrome because we won't be disruptive. Because we don't want to break the rules. We don't want to sit here and make them white folks mad. White folks gonna be mad no matter what we do. I suggested in a broadcast that ADOS put their focus on a state like Wyoming. Wyoming doesn't even have 1 million people in it. If 2 million ADOS people moved into Wyoming tomorrow, guess what happens? We take over the entire state. And we don't have to wait for a marathon to do it. ADOS becomes the sheriffs. ADOS becomes the judiciary. ADOS become the mayors. ADOS become the state representatives. ADOS become the state senate. ADOS becomes the governor. Instantly. And there's what? 33 to 38 million ADOS folk in this country? And we can't summon up enough guts among 38 million of us to take a chance to go, oh, well, them white folk ain't gonna just let us come in there and do whatever. How they gonna stop you? Especially if you soften the ground a little bit with your cat's paws. Your cat's paws going in there buying 1,000-acre ranches, 2,000-acre ranches, farms. Your cat's paws going in there buying up little key properties in every major city, including the capital, Cheyenne. How are they going to stop you? And that don't require trillions of dollars either. What y'all got to say on it? Whoop, pointing the wrong way again. 425-296-1980. Michael said over 100 abandoned cities in America right now. Wait a minute, Michael, it doesn't even have to get that deep. There are defunct and old military bases. One thing we know about the military is military bases pick strategic areas to be in. You can purchase a closed down, a defunct military base for a few $1 million from the federal government. Imagine a community that is in a strategic area, able to be defended and protected, because unlike the Bruderhof, ADOS folk, we ain't pacifists. So if we train our... Come on, let's do it. Caller from 708. It's your man, Mark Black. What's your name? Where you calling from? And what's on your mind?
Hey, Mark, this crew.
Crew.
Rock. What's up?
Holler at your man. Salute.
Hey, chillin'. I was just calling to say, what the hell are rules?
Right?
Yeah, I don't follow them.
I'm going to tell you. Wasn't it Morpheus that said the Matrix operates by a set of rules, but unlike the people in the Matrix, you can bend those rules, and some of them can even be broken, right? We need to be moving on some Neo type stuff, some disruptive stuff. You feel me?
What spoon? Where is the spoon?
Well, exactly. There is no spoon.
Exactly.
There is no spoon. Look, family, look at us. Look at us on this fine Sucka-Free Saturday. You got my man CRU who's saying, what? There is no spoon. You got Michael talking about 3 former defunct military bases in Florida alone, and there are multiples all over the country. I just told you. Look, Michael, you want to know the weather in Wyoming? In the winter is cold, in the summer is hot, and springs and falls in Wyoming are dope as hell. Basically Midwest weather. That's what it is in Wyoming. So in the wintertime, brothers
Yeah.
and sisters got to bundle up in Wyoming. In the summer, we're going to wish we had the AC. And in the rest of the time, it's going to be decent. That's what
Sound
it
like
looks like
Chicago
in
to me.
Wyoming.
That sound like Chicago to me.
You feel me? That sound like KC. That sound like the Lou. That sound like Little Rock. You feel me?
Yep.
That sound like Des Moines.
I do believe even Cerulean was talking about something like that, like all these defunct military bases that people can get. You know what I mean? I don't want to misquote him, but
no,
like, they're there.
I'm certain the brother Cerulean has talked about it. You feel me? Or as Show Nuff said, he said we can snowbird. I used to work for a big telecommunications company. I won't say their name, Xfinity. And Xfinity,
Yeah.
right? When I worked for
Jesus Christ.
Xfinity, we used to have to cut off services and turn on services every year for people who lived in the north, but would go to Arizona in the summer and snowbird, or in the winter and snowbird in Arizona, right? So for ADOS family, crew, thank you for your call, brother. Do you have something else you wanted to add? I ain't trying to cut you off. I just want to make sure I open up and take another one.
Oh no. I was just calling in to show support. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that, brother. I appreciate that.
PayPal a little bit.
Hey, thank you, brother. I appreciate the support, the financial as well as the love too. As always, you are always welcome to call in, brother, and I appreciate your input.
Let everybody else talk. You know what I mean? You know it's me. So
yeah, absolutely.
I just want to show some love.
Thank you, brother. And I love you too, man. Thank you. You have yourself a great weekend, sir.
All right, you too.
I will, sir. Family, my point is that I got disheartened because I didn't remember one key thing that I always tell you. Because of the unique situation in which we as ADOS people find ourselves in the United States, we're the only ethnic group in this country that can literally change our culture to whatever it is that we want. We are a hodgepodge of various tribal groups, talking about bloodlines, right? Ethnically. We are a hodgepodge of various African tribal groups and an admixture, some of us, of white folks. So unlike every other ethnic group in this country, we don't have a culture that we can reach back to and uphold. What we have is what we build. In other words, we have the culture we make. We're not bound by the dictates of ancient traditions and ancient ways that may have worked a long time ago that won't work for us now. We are easily the people who can maintain the most flexibility mentally. And we can be as disruptive as we want to be. What they gonna do with us they ain't already done to us? Somebody answer me that, ADOS. What is it that America is going to do to us they haven't already done to us? So if we make moves, if we be disruptive, if we shake up the status quo, if we start sweeping pieces off the chessboard and resetting things, what is America going to do to us they haven't already done to us? What are we going to lose that we haven't already lost? Somebody answer me that. I'm all for the long haul, right? I'm all for understanding that we need to husband our energies, right? And don't get burnt out. I am all for that. But for those of you who are looking at that as, oh, I can ease up. I can ease, put my foot, I can ease my foot up off the gas a little bit. I can lift my foot off the back of America's neck. For those of you who are doing that, explain to me, how is that going to benefit you? What is it that they're going to do to us that they haven't already done to us? Right? For us, it's reparations or bust. But in the interim, while we fight for this justice claim, let's do what we can do today. Let's put aside aspiration. Caller from 317. It's your man, Mark Black. What's your name, where you calling from, and what's on your mind? And make sure to turn me down in the background because I can hear the echo.
Albert.
Albert, hey, peace, brother. Glad to have you, man. Hey, Albert, by the way, I know you probably listening to me in the background. Go ahead and turn me down for just now, right, so that we don't get the feedback.
Yeah, I already paused the live stream.
Okay, good, brother. What's on your mind?
Well, I'm like, crew, what rules?
Right?
Every time I go up, turn around, somebody's breaking them.
That's facts. There's nobody else. See, I did a broadcast, Albert. I don't know if you saw it, but in this broadcast, brother, I stated that ADOS people are the only people in this country that still think the rules mean something. That still honor the rules. Right? We're obsessed.
Even when it comes to spiritual stuff, when you read, well, that's a whole nother story because. They don't read I'm like Grant. They don't read.
Yeah, because
they don't read the Bible.
Every one of their scriptures tell them to be empowered, and to do it collectively, to be empowered as a group. When Yeshua was talking about the Holy Spirit, he said it will descend on them not as individuals, but as a group. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
That it wasn't going to be that one of them was going to have it and everybody else was going to have to follow that one.
Right. It's supposed to go to everybody.
Exactly. Brother, did you have something else that you wanted to discuss or you know, anything else you wanted to add to the convo?
No, we need to grow a set of balls and figure out what we need to do. Like you, I like what you said about those companies. I've been listening in the background. I just haven't been typing, but I like what you said about those companies. We need to think about doing something like that because them motherfuckers in the corporations are crazy.
Yeah,
we got to do something different. We got to do something different for them.
I agree.
I'm with Cerulean. The empire's falling. Y'all need to pay attention.
See, family, look, I didn't want to bring it up, at least not on this broadcast, right? But what I wanted to what I wanted to say was that America is facing a decline.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, brother. I'm still here. We still getting feedback on your end. I don't know if it's your headphones or whatever the case may be, bro. But if you can adjust that would be great.
Okay, I'm not on speakerphone.
Oh, okay. Do you have on headphones? Like microphone.
No, I don't
headphones?
I don't have on headphones either.
Oh, okay. Maybe that could be just me. But at any rate, family, America is facing a decline, right? Part of the issue that we're having is the wealth is not growing anymore. It's calcifying, right? You've heard Yvette and Tone talk about the calcification of wealth, right? Because in point of fact, there is nothing else left for America and Europeans in general to steal. They've taken everything that can be taken and generated as much wealth from it as they can generate. So now what they're trying to do is lock in the advantage that wealth has given them, right? But what this means is that wealth will not flow through the society as much anymore. Over time, what happens is that wealth is going to calcify. It is going to harden in the possession of the individuals who currently have it. Now, because of that calcification, this means that unless we press home this justice claim and bring a portion of that stolen wealth back to us, we're going to find that our opportunities for generating wealth will be squelched. In other words, wealth generation for ADOS folk is going to be strangled in the cradle because we won't have enough capital to do it. You follow me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, family, this is why we can't treat this push for our justice claim to be honored like something that we can just meander our way to. We don't have that option because America is going to start passing on wealth to the new generation, but that wealth won't spread. It won't be distributed out into the society unless distribution is forced, unless there is a forced redistribution of that wealth. Brother Albert, before I let you go, man, is there anything else you want to comment on?
No, not right now.
All right. Well, hey, brother, always a pleasure. Thank you for your feedback, and I appreciate your support and love, man. You have yourself a great weekend.
No doubt.
Yeah, family. Darker Vision said, I feel like you could get the panties on board with the whole taking over Wyoming thing. You know what? Here's the thing that messes me up consistently about Pan-Africanism. Most Pan-Africans are here in the States. So why haven't they done the same thing? I used to be a part of a group, mostly white folks, by the way, mind you, as a libertarian, right? Back in the day, my political orientation was more like anarcho-capitalist / libertarian, if you want to, put a title on it. And I was a part of a group called the Free State Project. Look them up. They're all over the internet. The Free State Project. Essentially, the Free State Project was a group of people who had agreed that once they reach a certain critical mass to move to a certain state and simply take over that state's infrastructure and slowly over time peel back the government to make it more libertarian in that state. Now, the state that they picked was New Hampshire, because New Hampshire already has somewhat of a history of being a bit more libertarian government-wise than any other state in the country, right? So why is it ADOS talking about something like that? Or Pan-Africanists, for that matter? You see what I'm saying? They always talk about land, infrastructure, and organization and all that other stuff. I just described how we could do this in Wyoming. It's not even a thing. You don't even need 2 million people. If you have 1.5 million or 1.2 million, you immediately become the largest political bloc, the largest economic bloc in the entire state. Combine that with the softening of the ground, which is a military term that basically means that you do softening up attacks. Now, I'm using the term attack figuratively, right? I'm not saying go there and start killing folk, right? But you soften up the ground in preparation for your entrance into the state. You have cat's paws go there and make key purchases of things, low key, behind the shadows, in the shadows, behind the scenes. Your cat's paws go in there and soften the ground for you so that when you make this push, it's literally unstoppable. And think about it. Once ADOS folk have one state, what's to stop them from taking another state? After building, see, my point is, family, is that I don't want you to be disheartened. Yes, this may be a long, protracted affair to get our justice claim. It may be. But damn it, there are things that we can do in the interim along with pushing this justice claim that we can put just as much effort behind and get nearly immediate results from. And not to mention the fact that we will set quite a few ADOS folk up for success in the longer term as well. I watch videos on YouTube all the time of people, white folks, learning how to flint nap. I'm not saying we need to go back to the Stone Age, but I'm saying stop acting like getting back to family. Do you know what you can do with some rural land that don't involve you being out there living like neo-primitives? You can set up cell phone towers on your land and get paid by T-Mo or Sprint or Verizon for the use of your land. You don't sell it to them. You rent it to them. Long-term leases, 100-year leases, where they're paying you to have cell phone towers up on your property. Right? ADOS folk can organize agricultural collectives and do farmers markets in cities. They trying to run us out of the cities and gentrify them. Fine, let them have them. Let's go out to the dirt. Our people have had a history of being in the dirt anyway, in the soil. And then we could organize farmers markets to sell produce and goods in the cities at the high prices. Talking about organic, chickens and organic beef for $12.99 a pound. And this doesn't require that much of an outlay of capital. We could call it artisan farming. That's huge. Can you imagine Becky's going, yeah, I get my chickens from ADOS farms. And let me tell you, they have the best chickens. They're free range. They're cage free. They're cruelty free. I just love them. DDD, yes, but our votes, our leverage. There's nobody who can win in this country that's Democrat that doesn't have the black vote. I don't give a damn how many. And here's the thing. It's a great question. What happens when that leverage is gone? Well, I'm going to be honest with you. If we haven't started making forays into other interested parties, Republicans, then we're done. Those people who are ADOS that are thinking that somehow or another this movement, this push for our justice claim, this transformational moment is somehow about reforming the Democrats. If we find that we're no longer in a position where we can leverage our vote with the Democrats, if we haven't had sit downs and meetings, even with people that we consider to have political, to be our political enemies, then we're humped. That's the truth of the matter. August, I hear you. But you know what? I'm here to tell you, sister, don't be discouraged. Those statements are only ice cubes if we don't see the truth. And the truth of the matter is that even if our justice claim does take a degree of time to bring home, to bring to bear, right? To put paid to, there are still things that we who now understand the need to organize around our lineage and our heritage and our agenda and our interests can still do, that provide immediate benefits and some long-term benefits for as well. Do not be discouraged, sister. I am here to tell you, no matter how long it takes for us to push home this justice claim, the blueprint that I just gave you today as a mitzvah, as a free gift, we can start working on this right now. We can start organizing ecumenical ADOS councils that encompasses everybody's religious faith, religious practice, spiritual walk, and start organizing communities that are tax exempt, where we're not giving our resources to Sam at Alia, right? We can start making investments in our own communities. We can start worker-owned and operated cooperatives, so the brothers and sisters with the capital may not be the HNICs, but they're not broke either. And the employees aren't having to go out and beg and plead for employment opportunities in a world where we're being denied those at double-digit rates from everybody else. Do not be discouraged. We got multitudes of things as ADOS we can do. And the best part about it is we now have had ADOS come forward and show us the truth of the matter. The truth of the matter is that we have always had a shared tie based off of our lineage as the people who come from the enslaved ones. It doesn't matter what tribe that you come from. We the same tribe now. You and I share a common heritage, a common lineage. And yes, there's a common debt that's owed to us both. And we're going to push for it. But you know what else I'm also going to push for, August? I'm going to push for you to have your daily bread and to forgive you your debts and to ask you to forgive mine. To work to lead you not to be fallen or failing, but to fight and to deliver you from the evils that's out there. If you don't recognize what I just said, that's part from the Lord's Prayer. While you praying to the Lord, I can ask my brothers to do everything I just asked God to do in that prayer. My brother, my sister who art in Baltimore, hallowed be your name. Our kingdom come, our will be done in the U.S. as it is on the block. Let us work to give each other our daily bread and to forgive each other our trespasses as we ask that you forgive my trespasses, and to not set you up for failure, but to deliver you from evil. We having some church right now, strangely enough, ain't we? That's right, Kizzy. Artisan agricultural. Free range, organic. Wouldn't you like to have your hands on some of that bread? Family, I've eaten organic. You got organic apples that's $2 a buck, or $2 for an apple. Not $2 a pound, $2 an apple. An artisan organic, cruelty-free apple. I can't speak for you, but I can trim apple trees all day and play with kids in the afternoon and get some of that good liberal Becky bread at Whole Foods. Or better yet, start our own organic stores. You feel me? Family, you don't have to wait. You don't have to wait. Sure, we got a marathon ahead of us. Okay, fine. Well, I'm ADOS. So I can run a marathon and I can knit a scarf and I can feed some kids and I can elevate my brothers and sisters and I can discuss communities and I can walk and I can chew bubble gum all at the same time, because damn it, I was built for this. And like my brother Albert said, let the church say amen. Let not your heart be troubled, my brothers and sisters. We all knew when we signed up for this ADOS thing that America wasn't going to roll over and give it up easy. So let's continue to push for this justice claim. Let's continue to get in the faces of our brothers and sisters in our neighborhoods and our communities and remind them of their shared lineage and their shared heritage. Let's continue to give these so-called representatives pure shade and smoke. Let us continue to grow and build on this justice claim until it turns into a snowball that's unstoppable. But let us also look at other alternatives that we can get some immediate benefit from today that don't require us to have $1 trillion in capital to get started or get us involved in some disruptive technology that we don't control, that we don't own, that we don't understand. ADOS people understand dirt. We understand aminals. We can start there if you like. We understand wood. We understand cement. Let us start there. But instead of building that up for everybody else, let's start seed communities that build that up for each other and have agreements of cooperation and interdependence where if y'all fall off, you don't have to worry about it because we got you. When have ADOS ever had that? Where you lose your job, but don't worry, a group of ADOS brothers and sisters with their own worker cooperative over here can absorb everybody. Or you can retire and grow organic, free range, cruelty-free apples all day. When have we ever had that? DDD, I think the marathon started way back before emancipation. We've been running a marathon in America for 400 years now. So we can't get tired yet. We just need to be a little bit more disruptive. We need to be a little bit more willing to be mentally flexible and accept ideas that we normally wouldn't, such as pragmatism, doing what works, such as changing our culture, getting rid of the stuff that the mores and folk ways that we dragged kicking and screaming off of the plantations that ain't serving us in no good stead. Right? By taking the essence of our spiritual and religious practices and using them for our growth, our edification, our liberation, if you will. Shout out to my brother Charles Faulkner. Woo! Family, I'm going to get ready to wrap it up because we coming up on 2 hours. We actually are at 2 hours. And you know I don't want to keep you. I want you to enjoy your weekends. But I want you to think about what I said today. If I said something that uplifted you, if I said something that gave you your heart back, if I said something that put that fire back in your gut, you know what to do. Click the links and support your interests. Buy a book. Get an Angry Black Sheep shirt. I need to cop one so I can show them off to you. I got hoodies, shirts, and mugs. Get you one. Get some tangibles for your support, right? And until the next time I speak with you, family, I want to wish you all what I always do, which is love, peace, prosperity, and power, real power to our people.